has given greater clarity. So the good news is we have greater clarity on what actually took place in the 1MDB scandal. Where did the money go? Where did the money come from? And what else do we not yet know, and we should try to find out to finally connect all the dots together. Now, let's go back to 2012 when 1MDB raised $3.5 billion for the purposes of acquiring power companies in this country. Don't know why they were doing that. They are not adding any value, but they were doing it. They borrowed $3.5 billion and they took 8.5 billion ringgit to acquire Tanjung Power, and they took another 2.3 billion to acquire Genting Sanyin. Now, what 1MDB didn't have the capacity to do when they wanted to borrow this money is no bank wanted to lend them the money. It's too big a sum. They have no track record. They have no cash. They have no assets. Only an idiot will lend them the money. And thankfully, at that point in time, for one reason or another, perhaps being worried that Tony Paul might find out, the federal government decided not to guarantee these bonds. So 1MDB went shopping for a guarantor, and they ended up with IPIC, International Petroleum Investment Corporation, to guarantee this $3.5 billion worth of bonds. IPIC can be considered as the sovereign wealth fund of the Abu Dhabi government in United Arab Emirates. Now, obviously, if they have provided the guarantee, it is not for free. It is not because, we are very good friends. You need help, I help you now. It doesn't quite work like that. They provided a guarantee in exchange for potential profits. Now, how were they supposed to profit? They were given 49% options to acquire back Tanjung. PowerPoint not full screen. Sorry, Okay, where were we? Guarantee. The guarantee by IPIC, and the guarantee wasn't free. 1MDB have to grant IPIC, or rather the subsidiary of IPIC, ABA Investment PJS, ABA Investment, 49% rights to acquire Tanjung and Genting in the future. So although 1MDB bought these companies, they granted IPIC the options to acquire 49% of these companies sometime in the future. Now, besides this, they also in their financial statements, 1MDB in their financial statements disclosed that besides granting IPIC and ABA the 49% options, they also gave ABA another $1.4 billion worth of refundable security deposit. So I borrowed $3.5 billion, $1.4 billion or 40% straight away taken out and parked with the guarantor. So I'm paying interest on the full sum, but get only to use part of this amount of money. The question that always scratch head for a while, we were scratching our heads for a while. This 1.4 billion we discovered later wasn't disclosed in IPIC's financial statements. Now, IPIC in their financial statements stated very clearly they provided a guarantee for 1MDB's 3.5 billion of bonds, borrowings. And in exchange, they received the 49% options for Tanjung and Genting. But they never disclosed that they received any refundable security deposit in their books. And if you read the balance sheet of IPIC, which is published on the London Stock Exchange, audited by Ernst & Young, I would like to think the London Stock Exchange may be a bit more transparent and strict than here lah. What do you call it? The 1.4 billion is not present anywhere in the accounts. So we were asking, hey, you paid this to IPIC, are you sure? Because they don't publish it in their accounts. The answer from 1MDB here is, I don't know what they publish in their accounts, not my problem. How can? We must have certainty that they are holding our money. If you tell the bank they hold your property, you take a loan, they hold your property. Later the bank say they never have your property. You say, not my problem. They are how they report whether got my property or not my property. Cannot be what? We have to be interested to find out where my money actually is. Now this mystery perhaps has been resolved. This mystery has been resolved thanks to her hard work. In this case, I must give credit where it's due to Wall Street Journal, who reported about 2 months ago that there was another company by the name of Aba Investment. So this Aba Investment PJS Limited is different from the Aba Investment PJS of Abu Dhabi. This Aba Investment PJS Limited is set up in British Virgin Islands. We don't know who's the owner, but we are now seeing that this money is indeed paid to Aba Investment. So Arul Kanda is not lying. Okay. So the auditors, perhaps Deloitte, was fooled to think that they are one and the same company. Let us welcome our panel speaker, Saudara Hanifah Maidin, the Member of Parliament for Sepang. Even the auditors were fooled by this. So they signed off the accounts. Payment made to Aba, Aba say received, so everything okay. But now we know that payments and transactions are being carried out with a company by the name of Aba Investment PJS Limited, set up in British Virgin Islands, which in all likelihood has nothing to do with Aba Investment PJS in Abu Dhabi. And that's the reason why all this money is not reported in IPIC's financial statements published on the London Stock Exchange. Now, who owns Aba Investment PJS Limited? Now, this is the bit that we need to find out, and this is the bit where it is speculation. And this is the bit that is not difficult to find out as long as our Attorney General makes the request to British Virgin Islands to disclose who is the ultimate beneficiary of Aba Investment PJS Limited. Is it this guy? Our chubby, cute party man. Don't see picture also, you know who I'm referring to. Round one. Pai pai pang pang. So this is where 1.4 billion goes possibly missing. Now let's go back. Let's go back a bit to 2009, the first investment done by 1MDB. The one that we are very familiar with, 1MDB Petro Saudi joint venture. Now we knew that 1MDB raised 5 billion ringgit of bonds and then guaranteed by the federal government, of which a total sum, I won't tell the stories of the amount being added together, a total sum of $1.83 billion US dollars was invested or parked or lent to Petro Saudi. Now this venture or this investment was subsequently sold, apparently for a profit for 2.318 billion. Very profitable, but the money cannot see on. Where did the money go? The money ended up in Cayman Islands. Some investment fund in Cayman Islands. At that point in time, we were asking 2012, which investment fund is this? How come nobody knows? Why is such a big sum being parked in an investment fund when 1MDB is desperately raising money in order to buy IPPs? You know, you got so much money, why don't you bring it back and buy IPPs instead of like borrowing some more money? No answer. Now we know they invested in a fund managed by Bridge Capital Partners. Now Bridge Capital Partners, they claim, is a licensed investment fund manager. It's a two-man show lah. They received their license. Remember, the investment was carried out by 1MDB in Cayman Islands in September 2012. They received their license from Cayman Islands to manage funds in December 2013. Okay, but that's a side story. Okay, something that they have to answer for. But now they say, don't worry, Cayman's all resolved because money already come back. So if money already come back, everything that happens in the past, just sweep it under the carpet. Okay, let's look at whether money really come back or not. They say, I still now have 940 million in BSI Bank Singapore. Earlier we asked, is this cash? Cash. Later say, oh sorry, I read wrongly, it's not cash. It's assets. Okay, then we ask again, what assets? Is it property? Is it shares? Is it whatever? What assets are these? They said, oh sorry, not assets. It is units. What units are these in BSI? We have no idea until today. We have asked, if they are units, means they were never redeemed. If they are redeemed, then they can't be units. You all buy unit trust, right? That one units lah. When you buy a unit trust, you know who's your fund manager, right? Public Mutual lah, no Arab Investment Bank lah, da. But in this case, they got units, but no one managing. How do you still have units which is formed by the fund manager when you don't have a fund manager? Don't know. But never mind. This is a subsequent payment that was supposedly redeemed in January 2015. They redeemed earlier, before that, on 5th of November 2014. And that was the same date Deloitte signed off 1MDB's accounts for 2013. March 2014, sorry. For March 2014. So after Deloitte saw, okay, you retrieve back 1.22 billion from Cayman Islands of 5th of November, I sign off the account. A good what? 1.22 billion US dollars, at least half of the money has come back. So where is it? Immediately spent. On the same day. All the money was immediately spent on the same day. The bulk of which was 993 million or 1 billion US dollars out of 1.22 billion was used to pay ABBA. Why pay ABBA? They paid ABBA because, remember earlier I talked about the options? the options that were granted to IPIC. Okay, well, 1MDB decided that with those options granted to IPIC, they cannot IPO their power companies. So because they cannot IPO their power companies, they have to terminate the options. So when they terminate the options, they have to pay compensation to ABA. And how much did they pay for the compensation? $1 billion. You think about it, they borrowed $3.5 billion. Okay, they paid about 300 million in fees to Goldman Sachs. So that's 2.7 billion. Then they locked up 1.4 billion with IPIC. Then you are left with 1.3 billion. Then they paid 1 billion to terminate the options that they granted to IPIC. They are left with $300 million. So they borrowed $3.5 billion to use $300 million. How does that even make sense? But I'm digressing. The point here is they said out of 1.22 billion, they paid 1 billion to ABA investment. Hence, that's why the money you don't see, because I already paid ABA to terminate these options. So the payment was done in November 5th, 2014. Now what 1MDB did not tell you and did not publish in their financial statements, and somehow the auditors didn't know about it, don't know how they don't know about it, 1MDB took another loan of $975 million from Deutsche Bank and a consortium of banks led by Deutsche Bank. And the purpose of taking this $975 million worth of loans from Deutsche Bank was to pay ABA for terminating the options. And this was in September 2014. So if September 2014 they took 1 billion to pay ABA 1 billion to terminate the options, in November they collected another 1 billion and paid ABA another 1 billion to pay the options. Did they pay 2 billion? They borrowed 3.5 billion and they paid 2 billion for the options. Cannot be so stupid, right? I don't know lah, but sometimes you still think there's a limit to stupidity. I have some faith in humankind. So what actually took place here? I've asked this question many times to Arul. He refuses to answer the question. He said, no, the money is all done, and we only pay 1 billion for the options. So if you only pay 1 billion, where did the other billion go to? Better still, again, look back in the financial statements of IPIC. If 1MDB has made such a huge payment for the termination of options to ABA and IPIC, $1 billion, you would have expected that figure to be credited and noted in the financial statements of IPIC. There is no mention at all of any payment by 1MDB for the purposes of terminating the options with IPIC in the IPIC financial statements. In fact, in the IPIC financial statements, it shows that 1MDB still owe $500 million to IPIC for terminating the options. So if IPIC never received this $1 billion, where did this $1 billion go? Again, the answer came from the expose by Wall Street Journal, that is, whether the money was actually paid to ABA Investment PGS Limited of British Virgin Islands, which we know might or might not be owned by this very handsome man. So here you can see the question starts coming. If the 1 billion Deutsche Bank loan wasn't used to pay IPIC, what confidence do we have that the funds returning from Caymans, supposedly there were funds returning from Caymans, was actually used to pay IPIC? Or was it just a scam pretending that payment was made so the auditors can sign off and say, yes, the money was received and the money was paid to IPIC, to ABA Investment PGS. So perhaps only 1 billion was paid, the other part was bullshit. And this thing can easily be discovered with the money trails. The answers are already with the Auditor General and with the Attorney General. And all we need is, of course, to obtain the cooperation of British Virgin Islands with a simple letter of instruction from the Attorney General to get us the answer as to whether ABA Investment PJS Limited is in any way connected with ABA Investment PJS of Abu Dhabi. Now, other than these two big sums, there's another $3 billion raised by 1MDB Global Investment Limited in 2013. Now, this sum of money was raised, remember this date, 19th of March 2013. 19th of March 2013. Okay? $3 billion was raised. What was this supposed to be used for? This one received a letter of support from the federal government. Okay, that's why they can raise the 3 billion, because the federal government provided a letter of support, which in effect is a guarantee for the bonds. The 3 billion was meant to form another joint venture with ABA Investment Corporation. Got up, 50-50. Okay, 50% 1MDB, 50% ABA Investment. 1MDB puts in 3 billion, ABA will put in 3 billion. Except the investment never took place. So they raised 3 billion, ABA no 3 billion, so they never formed the joint venture. Money raised already. What did they do the money? 1.56 billion, they parked it in another some investment funds which we don't know about. Up to today, they have not disclosed what are the investment funds that they have invested in. 1.56 billion. And another 1.2 billion after knocking off another 300 million for Goldman Sachs. Okay, the money has been used. For what? Don't know. 1.2 billion US dollars. In today's terms, that's about 6 billion, about 5 billion ringgit. They use for what? We don't know. Because they have done nothing. In all their projects, they have done absolutely nothing. So where did this 1.2 billion US dollars go? So both of these are question marks that we need to go and figure out. People who are digging dirt, people like whom we are very thankful for, people like Claire Rucasso. These are the points that we need to dig. Now, how does all this come back to the 2.6 billion scandal? Is it two scandal or is it one scandal? Related scandal. Now, what do we know of the 681 million donation? We know that it's paid by Tunnel Finance via Falcon Private Bank, 681 million into the personal bank account of our lovely Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Najib Razak. Everyone's so proud. Tears coming up. And our Prime Minister is so honest that whatever he didn't use, he returned them back to the donor. Who says there are no honest politicians around? But what many didn't know was, besides this particular donation of 681 million, there's another donation of 170 million back in 2011 by another company by the name of Blackstone Asia Real Estate Partners. Now, Blackstone, the name Blackstone, is a very big fund manager in the United States. Huge. One of the largest in the world. Except, this particular Blackstone has nothing to do with that Blackstone. So another case of ABA Investment PJS and ABA Investment PJS Limited. They all appear to be the same. Something I'm not talking about tonight, you know, when Petro Saudi bought over the UBG, Utama Banking Group. It was Petro Saudi. But that Petro Saudi was different from the other Petro Saudi that actually did the joint venture with 1MDB. So it is a standard operating procedures by whoever who is behind the scenes to create companies in different jurisdictions with the same name, pretending to be the same company and passing them off as the same company. Now we know that Falcon Private Bank is owned by IPIC. So there is that Abu Dhabi connection there. And what else do we know? We know that the money from Falcon Private Bank, the 681 million, was transferred on 23rd and 25th of March 2013. What's the date I asked you to remember earlier on the 3 billion bond that was raised by 1MDB? 19th of March. Very ngam ho. 19th of March, 1MDB raised 3 billion US dollars. Somehow or other, 23rd of March, some very generous donor donated $681 million into Najib's private account. Want to check? Very easy one. Or the Attorney General just need to issue the instructions to discover the money trail of what is in 1MDB. Now we want to know, all these funny shell companies are ABA Investment PJS or Blackstone Asia Real Estate Partners, or in this case supposedly Tano Finance Corporation, the company which is owned by the Arab donor. Who is this Arab donor? This guy. Maybe lah. Maybe lah. But what I'm saying here is actually very simple. Many people have given up somewhat. They have said, no hope already lah of closing the case. My simple message today is we are actually very, very close to discovering who are actually behind the entire 1MDB scam and who is the supposed donor for our lovely Prime Minister. I'm certain that this matter will not rest. I'm certain that the interest in this matter has gone beyond our shores. We have more than 1,000 people here tonight for a forum that is quite unprecedented. But we also know today that authorities and agencies all around the world are now interested in how clever our Prime Minister is. Foreign newspapers, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Australia's ABC, The Economist, they are all very interested to learn how to get more donations from our Prime Minister today. So you can be assured that it is only a matter of time before the truth is discovered, before the real scandal is exposed, and before we can achieve our goal of getting rid of this lovely Prime Minister that we have. So I'll speak till there for now. I'll continue and answer questions later. Thank you very much.